Bray Wyatt's WWE return teased at Money in the Bank. A new SmackDown Women's Champion crowned last night. Also, a new SummerSlam match announced. And there's a major update on Bayley's WWE return. Hello and welcome to the Solo Sunday News here with myself, Andrew Pollard at What Culture Wrestling. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, follow, all of that generic good stuff. Most importantly, just have a good Sunday. As you can see, I'm in a slightly different setup today. I'm in the middle of a house move, so apologies for the skewed viewpoint and the empty shelves and the not much going on. But hey, you get prime viewing of Bret Hart over there on the wall, Mr. Perfect and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And some Super Free Animals love. SFA okay, always. But wrestling, because that's what you're here for, not just to hear me ramble. And the big news, well, there was lots of big news coming out of Money in the Bank last night. Was it the greatest pay-per-view of all time? Fortunately not, but it was noteworthy, newsworthy, and one such story that's got people talking is Bray Wyatt coming back to WWE. Now, if you did stay up to watch Money in the Bank or you've caught up on it today, you'll have seen that there was a vignette, a spooky vignette, the Scott Hall fingers. Rest in peace. There was a spooky vignette that aired that some people are thinking, is this all about the return of the Eater of Worlds? Also, some people are speculating that could this be a vignette heralding the impending debut of Gable Steveson, that being because there was a gold medal viewed in this footage. And it's not going to be Bray Wyatt by the looks of it. Now, to me, I didn't think it was Bray Wyatt upon a first watch. My first thought went somewhere completely different. And that somewhere different is the same as what Fightful Select have reported overnight, that this is in fact heralding the return to action of Edge. Now, for me, it's like I saw the gold medal and my first thought, rather than Gable Steveson, my first thought was Kurt Angle. But also then there's crosses in there that seem to represent Edge's time teaming with Christian, maybe being in the Brood. There's also the big ones for me are, I don't know what you call them, wristbands, armbands, those things that the Hardy Boys used to wear, that Jeff Hardy used to wear. And also there was a pair of black glasses with some white tape in the middle, which signifies the Dudley Boys. So this all just seems to be lots of nods to various times in Edge's career ahead of him return to action. Now, of course, Edge has been out of action off TV since the 6th of June, the episode of Raw there, where Finn Balor joined Judgment Day. Then Judgment Day immediately turned on Edge, and he's been the rated R superstar has been out of action, out of commission, off TV ever since. So it looks like Edge is imminently returning to our screens, and it's not going to be Bray Wyatt. Right, away from Bray Wyatt, or not Bray Wyatt, one of the other big stories coming out of Money in the Bank is that Liv Morgan is your new SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, going into Money in the Bank, it was Ronda Rousey as a SmackDown Women's Champion defending against Natalya. And instead, the person walking out with that title as Money in the Bank wrapped up, was indeed Liv Morgan. Now, earlier in the night, the opening match of the show, to be precise, Liv Morgan won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match and then went on later on to successfully cash in on the Rowdy one. And we have a new SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, Rousey had put Natty away with a patented armbar, but the whole story of the match was basically Natty and Ronda working submissions, Natty working over Ronda's leg as part of the setup for the sharpshooter, which to me, I've seen this done years, time and time again over the years, but to me, the sharpshooter, you should be working the back. I'm not giving any tips and pointers on stuff, but hey, it's a submission move that, it impacts the knees and the legs. But it's mainly the back, because your back's all bent. But anyway, the story was that Natty was working over Ronda's leg. And so after that match, Liv came out. Ronda, it looked for a second that we might get the first ever women's unsuccessful cash-in because Ronda immediately put Liv in an ankle lock, but then Liv kicked out the leg. She kicked her leg out from under her leg. To quote the great Owen Hart, to paraphrase the great Owen Hart, and then got the roll up 1, 2, 3. Liv Morgan, your new SmackDown Women's Champion, and I'm intrigued to see where this goes because we had two new first-time winners, I guess you call it, of the Money in the Bank matches. Liv Morgan winning the women's match. Theory, don't call him Austin. Theory winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now he was a late inclusion into the match, and that throws up a whole bunch of questions. For me, I'm thinking, I don't know. Does John Cena return and end up taking that briefcase off him? John Cena cashes in on Roman Reigns, and we get John Cena breaking Ric Flair's record. Hey, it's crazier things have happened. But yeah, the Theory is your men's Money in the Bank winner, and I mean, where do you go from here? I was hoping for Heist of the Century 2.0. I'll have, I was hoping that Seth Rollins would indeed win this and then cash in the main event of SummerSlam when it's Brock Lesnar challenging Roman Reigns. But hey, it didn't go quite that way for the architect, for the visionary. The one I was also hoping it didn't happen, and I might get some grief for this, I was just really hoping it wasn't Drew McIntyre. I am going to Clash at the Castle. I'm loving the fact that there's going to be a big pay-per-view back in the UK that's going to be in Wales. But I also don't want to see Drew McIntyre standing tall at the main event, having won the title. But that's just me. And I thought that Money in the Bank would be the way to get him there, even though he's basically come out on TV and said, yeah, I'm challenging you, Roman. I don't know. But SummerSlam, speaking of SummerSlam, there's a match. One more match has been made official after Money in the Bank went off the air. Now, for those in the arena last night, they will have seen as Happy Corbin came out to celebrate with Theory. Corbin then attacked Pat McAfee, hit the end of days, got the mic and said that he accepts Pat McAfee's challenge for a match at SummerSlam. So it's bum-ass Corbin versus Pat McAfee at SummerSlam. That's one of only two matches announced as of this recording. SummerSlam is the 30th of July. So we've got, looking at my little calendar here, 27 days. So yeah, there's plenty of time to fill out that card, and hopefully we get some stuff that's entertaining. Now, what could be entertaining for me, and I'm sure for you watching at home, is the impending return to action, to the ring, of Bayley. Now, this is an update from over the weekend from Fightful Select again to say that Bayley has been in ring working towards a return. She's been working in the ring, I guess, obviously getting the ring rust out ahead of hopefully returning imminently. Now, it's absolutely crazy to think of that Bayley has been out of action for basically a year. The last time she wrestled on TV was the 25th of June, 2021, which was a mixed tag match where she teamed with Seth Rollins against Bianca Belair and a certain Claudio Castagnoli. Now, shortly after that, it was early July, it was reported the injury happened. Bayley got injured, tore her ACL, which is obviously a major injury, hence why it's kept her on the shelf for a year as of now. And the kind of kicker about all of this, that the injury occurred during basically WWE ahead of returning to live touring because of Thunderdome era and pandemic and stuff. WWE started running mandatory training sessions at the Performance Center. This being Bayley, who'd worked all throughout that era, the Thunderdome era, working twice a week sometimes, putting on matches, being the star of the show. She was one of the highlights of that weird time. So yeah, they ran these training sessions. Bayley got injured, tore her ACL, and unfortunately has missed out for over a year, which is, to me, Bayley is just such a great presence to have around in wrestling, whether it's as a babyface, whether it's as a heel, and clearly he's a great worker in the ring and out of the ring. So yeah, here's hoping that return is very, very soon. Hey, maybe for SummerSlam, and also maybe she picks things back up with Bianca Belair, because previously Bianca was the SmackDown Women's Champion, and they were embroiled in a rivalry before Bayley's injury. Nowadays, Bianca is the Raw Women's Champion. Of course, she beat Carmella last night in Money in the Bank, and so maybe when Bayley returns, then she goes after Bianca Belair, the EST of WWE, and the Raw Women's Championship. Now, some questions to run through here. Always my favorite part of a Sunday is having these questions. So, and again, as always, pet pictures are always encouraged, always legit brightens my Sunday. And one person who sent in a picture of their pet is Coulter Strandhausen. Happy Solo Sunday from Leia. My cat is also called Leia. My cat is sleeping through there somewhere and has been a pain in my ass this morning, in the nicest possible way. Happy Solo Sunday from Leia. Is there a wrestling move that makes you wince every time you see it? Pile drivers of any kind make me nervous every time. Hashtag Solo Sunday News. Yeah, there's a few that come to mind. Pile drivers, to me, yeah, they're some of them. But some of the dives, I mean, not to be like old man shout at cloud, but to me, wrestling has too many dives. If like every match has a dive in it, then what makes them stand out from the other? I mean, someone like Darby Allin does his dives very differently. They make me wince, but they make me wince more for the person taking it, I guess, because just I don't know how that dude gets so much speed, and the angle of it, it's genuinely great to watch because it's different to your normal generic, right? I'm just going to go over the top because everybody's going over the top, and that's all stand there and catch me. Doesn't do it for me, brother. But other moves that make me, the vertebreaker back in the day when Shane Helms, Sugar Shane Helms, when he was pulling out the vertebreaker, that always had a ooh for me. And I guess, I mean, I haven't got much time for the man. I think he's a bit of an idiot. But I guess the clothesline from hell, from Bradshaw, from JBL, that always looked like a son of a gun to take. Just it looked brutal. It looked badass. And by all accounts, it was very, very snug and very, very laid in. I mean, and to spin off that, you can go back to Stan Hansen and his lariats. So yeah, those are the ones that jump out for me. Right, Ben Hawkins has got in touch. Morning, Andrew. Morning, Ben. Hope you were good. With the women's Money in the Bank case keeping its 100% success rate last night, how much longer till there's a failed cash in, e.g. in the next holder or in 5 to 6 times line up with the men's first fail? Now, I looked into this, that obviously the first time the men's Money in the Bank briefcase was unsuccessfully cashed in was John Cena, which I knew that bit, but it was the 11th time of a cash in, and that was when it was first unsuccessful. Now, the women, there's been Carmella, Alexa, Bayley, Asuka, where she got handed the title by Becky Lynch, and then Nikki ASH. And obviously now Liv Morgan. So we've got, 6 of those. I don't know. It all depends on the story. I think it's hard to pinpoint a time, I guess, and say, I think the 11th cash-in is going to be unsuccessful, or the 8th cash-in is going to be unsuccessful, or the 9th, or whatever. I think it depends on the story, really, because, for instance, if it's an established star, say it was, it could have been Becky Lynch. If Becky Lynch would have won that and cashed in and was unsuccessful, then that kind of would play nicely into a story of this breakdown that she's having for not being able to win when it matters. So something like that, I think it worked well then. With somebody, I think when, like, say, Liv Morgan gets it and it's the first time that person's got a chance really to be given the ball to run with. I mean, obviously Liv's had title matches previously, always come up short. So I think with a fresh talent, or relatively fresh talent, I think that they always pretty much have to cash in successfully, unless, especially if they're a babyface. I mean, if your babyface cashes in and loses, then it's like, I don't know, you just think, what's the point in giving it to them? Whereas with a heel, you can use that to spin it off into various different ways. I mean, Baron Corbin, he unsuccessfully cashed in, and it didn't really hinder him massively. I mean, obviously, if he'd have cashed in, and you can look back, say maybe if he'd have cashed in successfully, he could have had a couple of world championships to his name by now instead of zero dimes. Damien Sandow is the example of just absolutely being killed by not cashing up, by losing when you cash in, and then that was pretty much the beginning of the end for Damien Sandow in WWE. It's a shame. So to go a long way round the houses to give you an answer, Ben, I say I have no specifics on when it's not going to be successfully cashed in, and it all depends on who the talent involved are and where they're at that time. Mark Solid, hey, there's a nice picture there of Apollo chilling out. Morning, Andrew, happy Sunday. What's one heel versus heel and face versus face feud you'd book in AEW? I'd pick House of Black versus Team Taz and Phoenix versus Darby Allin. Hashtag this is news. Also, those women's tag titles aren't coming back, are they? Nah, man. No, there's no point. There is absolutely zero point in bringing the WWE women's tag titles back, because there is not a women's tag team division. It felt almost like these titles were just so inconsequential as soon as they were first announced, because there was no tag teams really. I mean, you had tag teams and then they got broke up. The Iconics were a tag team, a bona fide tag team. They got broke up. The Riot Squad were a bona fide tag team. They got broke up. Sasha and Bayley, you could just about get away with because we all know their history. So while they weren't a tag team, it kind of made sense. But then you just start throwing people. Fire and Desire, Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, they were a tag team. You break them up. Since then, it's just been people being thrown together, like Natalya and Tamina, Natalya and Shayna Baszler. Just random talents thrown together just to either win those titles or to challenge for those titles. Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss. Just random two talents thrown together just because, hey, we don't actually have any tag teams. There are some tag teams in NXT, and those tag teams are very good and could be great. But at the moment, until some of those tag teams come up and are allowed to flourish as tag teams, there's no point in bringing those women's tag titles back, unfortunately. But anyway, the other question. AEW heel versus heel and babyface versus babyface. Right, babyface versus babyface. Dax Harwood versus CM Punk. That's it. That's the answer for me. That is, a fit and healthy CM Punk versus Dax Harwood. Dax Harwood, who at the moment is very much my wrestler of the year. FTR have had some of the greatest matches of the year, whether as individuals or as tag teams. So for me, my match of the year right now is probably, if I was put on the spot today, would be FTR versus the Briscoes. So yeah, Dax Harwood versus CM Punk. And as for heel versus heel, hey, he said it himself. The last time we saw him on AEW TV, Bryan Danielson said, he reminded us that he is a heel. He came out the heel, he came out the bad guy tunnel, as he put it. So he wasn't giving us an answer as to his replacement at Forbidden Door. So I would go Bryan Danielson versus, Bryan insinuated that the Blackpool Combat Club are still heels, regardless of them being cheered. So Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli by that logic. But if not that, I'd go with Bryan versus Buddy Matthews. Just as a match, I've got so much time, all the time in the world for Buddy Matthews, Buddy Murphy, whatever you want to call him. I just think such a ridiculously talented dude. So I would go with those two, or once she's back fit and healthy, I'd like to see something with legit Layla Hirsch and Serena Deeb. Just two people I really enjoy watching their style. Brian George with the last question. I think this is of today. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Brian, and a happy Sunday. Well, I'm happy Brody King won Friday night. Is it worrisome that Darby keeps losing? Other than that Forbidden Door and against Andrade, he hasn't won anything big since before losing to MJF. Hashtag, this is the news. It's especially with AEW, it's with the whole ranking system. It means that if you win all the time, you have to be in title contention. I know some people thought that maybe Darby Allin might win the Rampage Battle Royal and then go on to have, because whoever won that match, it was going to be a world title shot on TV, which you're going to lose to Jon Moxley. So Brody King in that regards, yeah, but that's fine. But I think if it was Darby Allin, again, it would be another loss for him. And the more wins you have, that means you have to, by default, by the rankings, that means you have to challenge for a title. And right now, if Darby Allin challenges for the world title, he's going to lose. If he challenges for the TNT title, then who knows? But at the moment, that's not a thing because the focus is on Wardlow going after Scorpio Sky. You've also got Pac now recently as the inaugural AEW All Atlantic champion. So the more you win, that always puts you in a title spot. And clearly AEW aren't going on Darby right now with any particular gold. So yeah, it's not great to see him lose, but it's one of those. The thing that worried me a little bit, and again, I guess you have to talents dip in and dip out, but the fact that Darby was on AEW Dark last week, the week before, against Brandon Cutler, and I think it was less than a minute, it felt like, and he won clearly convincing fashion. But it's like, do you really want Darby Allin on Dark? But again, it brings some name value, name recognition to Dark. It's a big star on Dark, so hey. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's worrisome. Because everybody can't win all the time. Everybody can't be featured as a main event player all the time. So I think it's just Darby's time to step back a little bit, because you've got to think he's been such a focal point of AEW programming since the company launched. He was immediately marked out, obviously the four pillars, he was immediately marked out as, this guy's the future, this guy's exciting, this guy's different. And it could be that maybe you could say he's got lost in the shuffle a little bit, because you've had guys come in like CM Punk, like Bryan Danielson, like Jon Moxley, Adam Cole, baby, Big Keith. Although, obviously what's going on with Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland right now is whatever's going on with them. And it's not a big deal to me, unfortunately. So I think maybe Darby's got lost in the shuffle a little bit, but hey, he's teaming with Sting. That's not going to last forever, because obviously Sting is no spring chicken. But I think everything's okay with Darby. If you looked at the four pillars, then I don't know. Yeah, I think he's probably roundabout right now. He's probably roundabout where he needs to be, because he's that person you can always pull the trigger on to put him insert him into a title picture, into the title feud, into a title program, whether that's the world title, whether it's a secondary title. So yeah, it's not ideal, but hey, the long way around the houses again of just saying that everybody can't win over time. So yeah, I'm sure Darby Allin will be fine. And thank you for that question, Brian, and thank you all for tuning in to this. It feels like a weird edition of the Solo Sunday News, because I'm sat in an empty room, empty shelves everywhere, boxes piled up, because house move. Hey, but things hopefully will be back to normal by next Sunday. But in the meantime, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, follow. Come and follow us if you want at WhatCultureWWE on the Twitter. Follow me. I can't promise it's going to be that exciting, at CultureLeftPeg on the Twitter. Have a great rest of your Sunday, whatever you're doing. If you got big plans, no plans, I hope you have a super awesome Sunday. I'm going to drink more coffee, get on with some more work, and I'll catch you next weekend.